Welcome to episode 20 as we go one-on-one with one of my most distinguished friends and one of the great Bulldog fans and supporters out there, the one and only John Parker. John, one of the most interesting things about you, and you have led an incredible life. First of all, your background growing up around the university, and you didn't exactly take the direct route into becoming a tycoon, a mogul of a high-powered attorney at the pinnacle of your career, senior legal counsel and advisor for Coca-Cola. I think most Fortune 500 attorneys got their start coaching basketball and football as well, right?
Absolutely. In fact, I would recommend it to anybody. It's the best training in the world. If you can do that and deal with those 18, 16, 15-year-olds raging with hormones, taking care of all those corporate guys is a piece of cake, man. Piece of cake. Yeah, I did that for 9 years, Jeff. I taught school and coached basketball and football, and it's without a doubt the hardest job I've ever had in my life and the most rewarding. And as you know, with your wife, Emily, being a teacher is a calling. It requires a special kind of person to do it. So that's why I quit.
Now, John, your days at Coca-Cola took you all over the world. One of the things that's so fascinating to me, just kind of going back through your background and your family's background, you told me when, I guess, went to New York or went to Europe for the first time with Coca-Cola, that you had never been on an airplane before.
Well, no, I've been on an airplane by then. My first airplane trip, I was 24, 25 years old.
Okay.
Did that. It was the first time I've been outside the country, was when we moved to Norway. I had to go buy a passport, because I didn't have a passport, never been outside the United States. And in fact, until I worked for Coke, I'd never been outside the South. So my first trip to New York was like visiting a foreign land. It's still a foreign land, actually. So yeah, when we finally moved to Oslo in 1995 and had to go get a passport, and Kay and me and our, at the time, 3 children all picked up and moved to Oslo. And it was fantastic. It was a great experience.
Now, John, your father, Reid Parker, and the athletic director's position here at Georgia is endowed in his name, was a great man and a great Bulldog. It meant so much to the university, so much to the Bulldogs. He was the longtime faculty rep and was the athletic director there with Coach Dooley, worked tightly with Joel Leaves. And for you growing up in Athens, a lifelong Bulldog, I mean, you talk about going through the glory days with Coach Dooley and Coach McGill and Coach Hartman. So I wanted to ask you about some of the famous games. And I guess you were a wee lad, but were you at the 59 Auburn game and at the flea flicker game against Bama in 65?
I was at both of those. The first Georgia game I went to was in 1959. It's when my folks moved here. I was 8 years old, and we moved here. And so the first game was in 1959. I was there for that Auburn game, that 14-13 game. And it was there for the flea flicker as well, and his knee was not down. Let's just be clear about that. It was very obvious to everybody in the stands. And so over the years, we've seen some amazing, and growing up in Athens at the time and being surrounded by the university and all the Bulldog stuff. I mean, there couldn't have been a better place to grow up than Athens, Georgia back in those days. It was amazing, absolutely amazing.
Now, John, your father, 2 of his closest friends, 2 other great men, the one and only, the great Dick Kopus and the late, great Dr. Bill Powell. And those guys used to go have sweet teas out atop Kudzu Hill there beyond Foley Field. It was a very nice touch a few years ago. That's such a famous area for our baseball fans that they made the Garden Club Terrace out there in honor of those 3 great Bulldogs.
Yeah, there wasn't any tea involved, I don't think. I think it's mostly Budweiser's, to be honest with you. But, yeah, they called themselves the Garden Club, the 3 of them, because every year they would plant a garden, which is an excuse to go sit out there and drink beer and tell stories. And they tell the same stories over and over again. I remember going out there as a kid watching them do that, and it was a blast. Those 3 guys, Mr. Powell and Coach Kopus and my father, are the kind of people on whom the university is built. Selfless people who are, highly supportive of what's going on, and their major focus is on helping and what can we do to be part of the success. I don't think I've ever had a conversation with Dick Kopus that doesn't end with him saying, well, let me know if I can help. That's his go-to phrase. And that summed all three of those men up. They gave very selflessly, and they loved each other too. It was a great story to watch them together, and they set a bar pretty high, and I failed to meet it, but they set a great bar, and it was fun being around those guys. It really, really was. That was and that was before you were born.
I think that's the message for so much of it. Through our labors, we do it not for ourselves, but for others. And you have certainly done that, being involved in so many different facets within the university. Now, John, for you, I think you've got two great stories about how you redirected your career. I mean, going to law school when you're 30 years old, and then also with your father, what the GI Bill meant for him, for your family, coming out of World War II, getting him to Georgia. You talk about just changing the direction of an entire generation and a family.
You know, I think sometimes we maybe forget a little bit, especially if you live in Athens, but you forget how powerful education is. So my father grew up in just dirt poor in Franklin County, Georgia, and was the first one in his family to go to college. But the reason he went to college was because of World War II. He went off to World War II and served. He was in a troop ship that was sunk by a German submarine off the coast of France, and over 900 men died that night. And he was one of the lucky ones that survived. And when he got back, the GI Bill was available, and he went to school. And he eventually became he was on the faculty here and taught here for years and years. And it just shows you how powerful it is, because that one opportunity to go to school changed his life, but it changed my life. It changed my sister's lives, and it's just really powerful. So we're fortunate right here to have this kind of education so close to us. You're absolutely right. And so when I was going to school, when I went to Georgia undergrad, then I got through, and I thought I was going to go to law school, but ended up spending 9 years teaching and coaching for some reason. Then when I went back to law school at 32 years old, it was because I wanted to be there, and I understood a lot better what I was trying to do and accomplish. So I got a lot more out of it. I think we all know when you put more in, you get more out. Well, I put a lot more in at 32 or 33 than I would have put in at 21 or 22 when I was still young and stupid. So education is a powerful thing. It really is.
Well, I consider myself old and stupid now. Another good story, and I know this is, you talk about giving back, when you can do things for your parents who've all done so much for us. When you were able to take your father back to Europe and to France, one of my favorite stories, and I know that was a much more pleasant trip overseas than his first one was back in the 1940s, of course. So to see it from a different perspective, but ordering his favorite drink is a pretty darn funny story.
Yeah, my father was he liked routines, right? He drank Budweiser, period, full stop. You didn't have Budweiser, he wasn't drinking it, right? And his favorite mixed drink was bourbon and ginger ale. And he loved to have a bourbon ginger ale in it every day. And he would sit down and have that one bourbon and ginger ale, not two, but one. So we're over there, we're in Bayou, which is a wonderful place. And we'd gone back over to see the beaches, and he'd landed over there and all that stuff. And it was amazing and touching. But so we went out that night, and he said, I need to get her a drink. So the waitress walks up, and he says to her very carefully, Bourbon and ginger ale. And this French woman looks at him, and she looks at me, and she looks back at him, and I'm just like, whatever. And I said, Dad, they don't have Bourbon and ginger ale. It's just not on offer, right? And he was so disappointed. So anyway, I went out and found some, and I actually went down the street the next day and found a little shop, and they had one thing of Jack Daniels and a 6-pack of ginger ale. And so I bought both of them. So I brought it back, and we got to the end of the day, and we got back to the room, and we stopped the lady we were in a tiny little 4 or 5 room inn, basically. I asked her if we get a little ice so he could have ice. You had to have ice with it. And she said, sure. So we're in there in the room. She knocks on the door and comes in, and she's got a glass. It's got 2 pieces, with ice in it, each one of which is about the size of a quarter. And my father says, what is this? There's no, what is this? He was totally flummoxed about it all. So anyway, so I went and he drank, but let's be clear, he drank the bourbon and ginger ale. That was happening. So anyway, so I went and told the lady, I said, look, is there any way I can go buy some ice somewhere or something? And because he likes a lot of ice, he's American. And by that point, she figured out he was a veteran and had served in France and fought in the war. So the next day we get home, we go by, and she said, I'll be right there with your ice. We go get in her room, knock on the door, open the door, and she's got a bowl this big filled with ice. And she'd gone out and bought an ice tray and made extra ice, and to have for him as just a gesture of thanks for the fact that he was a veteran who fought in France. It was just amazingly touching. And let's also be clear, we drank that bourbon and ginger ale again that night, and we had it every night. But it was great. Being an American traveling in Europe is a wonderful thing, and it was, anybody who gets a chance to do that, especially your parents, y'all take advantage of it. It's a cool thing. Very cool.
That really is an amazing and touching story. Now, for John, with Georgia being such a huge part of your life, when you and Kay and the kids, when you retired, moving back here to Athens, it's been so awesome. And I mean, for you guys, y'all been so involved in everything, and a couple of things I want to talk about. In particular, Malcolm Mitchell with his foundation, what Malcolm has done, and also with the Kirby Smart Family Foundation. And Malcolm, I think he certainly looks at you as a second dad, and Kay as a second mom. What an incredible story he is.
He's I did not appreciate it. It shows the fact that you don't really understand people till you meet them and really get to know them. And when I first met him, I assumed he's a football player, right? And but then started talking to him, and he asked the best questions I'd heard anybody ask. We're standing there talking at a party, basically. He started asking these questions, and toward the end of our conversation, he said, "Would you mind if I came by and sat down and just, talk to you and pick your brain a little bit?" And I said, "Sure." And that grew into a friendship. And what I discovered is Malcolm Mitchell is a unicorn. And in that he is someone who grew up with, we talk about education, no support. His mom is one of the great ladies ever. Single mom, 3 kids, coming out of a tough situation in Valdosta, and she raised 3 great kids. He's got native intelligence, he's got inquisitiveness, and he's got a drive. And he loves kids, and he loves teaching and talking about literacy, and he's living that, and that's what he's doing full time. And it's inspiring to me, and it should be inspiring to all the Bulldogs to know that we have people like that coming through our program. It is absolutely beyond belief what he does. And it's funny because when he got injured and finally had to quit his career, playing football, he called up to say that's what was going on, told me. And I said, well, he said, I've got to get another operation. I said, well, you're welcome to stay with us while you're rehabbing. And so he did. He moved in with us up in our little upstairs apartment, right? Well, 12 months later, I'm going, okay, Malcolm, 12 months, let's go. Come on, man, let's move. I was talking about just rehabbing, not permanent here. But it was great having him around. He was good for the kids. He learned a lot. He's just I think we have a paradigm about what athletes are and how they think and behave. And I think when we actually meet most of them, they're pretty impressive folks. They're getting it done in a real serious way. Malcolm's a great example of that. We've had others here too. We've been very blessed at UGA. And, growing up, I was in the 60s, right? All those Vince Dooley teams. And the captain of the 1965 team, the team that beat Alabama and beat Michigan 15-7 in Ann Arbor, the captain of that team is a guy named Doug McFalls. Doug McFalls and his wife lived in a little garage apartment literally behind our house in Athens. And here I am, 14 years old, in awe of everything to do with Georgia. The captain of the freaking football team is living 50 feet away. It was unbelievable. It was one of the great things of life. And he was one of the great people you'll ever meet too. And so I think living in Athens is great. Being around the Dogs is amazing. And you think about all that history, we're so lucky. We're all so lucky to be able to be here. So moving back here was a great move for us, and we're thrilled to be here.
And also, I think it's such a special time now for Georgia with Kirby and Mary Beth being here. And I ran into Miss Dooley last year and just brought that up. And I know they're seeing a lot of similarities. When Coach Dooley came here and they were young, Miss Dooley told me she was 22 or 23 with 2 kids and went on the way. So to have Mary Beth.
That age just a little bit, don't you think?
And for them to have the young family and the 3 kids, and this is where they've always wanted to be, that they're going to be here for the rest of their lives. So we really are in a tremendous spot. And when you talk about giving, what they've done with their foundation, as we speak now, I know it's over $750,000. It might even be more than that to 50, 60 charities, whatever it is around the state. I mean, those are the things that Kirby, that family has done that doesn't get a ton of ink, but you talk about the impact and how far it reaches. It's incredible. The quote unquote little things they do that make such a huge difference for people.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. And I think, Kirby and Mary Beth living right here in town in 5 Points, they're part of the community. They're out. You see them at dinner. You see them out with people and just living their lives right here in Athens. They love Athens. So they love the university. Their foundation, I was fortunate enough, they asked me to get involved with their foundation back when they were first forming it 3 or 4 years ago when he first got here. And to see the passion that they bring to that foundation and the joy that they get out of helping families. Their focus is on children and families that are facing issues. And in fact, we had a meeting today, Mary Beth and I and Lauren Cook, who you know well, to make a judgment call on some grants to give to some people doing some amazing work in the community, helping people in our community. And so we called the guy up. We're going to give a special award. We called the person up who's going to get this special award. And he got all choked up and teary-eyed. Mary Beth got all teary-eyed, and I got, goosebumps, and I might have had a tear or two myself. But they believe in that stuff, man. They're living it. They're not just talking about it; they're living it. We're pushing. This year over $350,000 worth of grants that we're making this year out of the foundation, which is fantastic, and it's all going to families and children in the state of Georgia to help them be successful. So we are blessed, and Kirby's young, and hopefully he doesn't burn out. He's going so hard. But we're blessed that he's so young and he loves this university. He loves Athens. And Mary Beth, shoot, she's the best. She's just the best. So we're in a special place. The university's stronger than it's ever been. Our academic ratings are the highest they've ever been. The quality of the students is higher than it's ever been. We're in a golden era right now, and I think people need to appreciate it, both athletically and academically. I really do.
My motto is, thank God I got in when I did. I'd have no chance today.
Yeah, you're right. No chance.
Around that.
In fact, there's been some talk about taking your degree away, just for the record.
I get nervous every time I set foot in an academic building. They might. I've got that baby framed though. John, talking about Mary Beth and Miss Dooley, your wife Kay is an absolute rock star, and you talk about somebody who is always positive and always helping people. Boy, she's quite the foundation and quite the wonderful person.
You're right. She is absolutely all that. And she's got this gene to help other people that's about as strong as you're ever going to see. Her whole life has been focused on others and helping others. And she's dedicated so many hours, so much effort to helping other people, other charities, other folks in need. A lot of times it's quiet. She hosted a house church here at our house, and a church group and most of them were students. And this one of the people who came to that house church was a young lady, and she was going to graduate, and she didn't have any money. So she couldn't afford a dress for graduation. And so Kay went out and got her a dress and said, shoot, we're going to get her 2 dresses because she's going to need to go to some parties too. Didn't tell her about it, just went out and did it. And it was, that was sort of typical of the kind of thing she does. She's great. And she is so positive, it's amazing.
Well, John, you guys have meant so much to so many people, and being here in Athens in this special time. Obviously, this year has been unlike anything, but if there is one big thing I think we can all take from this, is with all the bad stuff and the crazy stuff that's happened, we will absolutely savor every moment, every opportunity. I've said this to everybody we talk to, even if it's a 20-inning baseball game at 1:30 in the morning, I can't wait to call it again.
That was a great game. Well, the other thing I do want to say before we sign off and finish here is, Kay and I have been blessed in so many different ways, and our family has been too, and we count those blessings every day. Whatever we've given, we've gotten back 10 times what we've given. And I think people, who are committed to doing what they do get back a lot more than they give. And I think you see that all the time. And I know it's the same way with you, and you give your time and effort so generously as well. And it's so fulfilling. You see people help. And I mentioned one thing, Kirby yesterday, at my request, called a guy cold who's got cancer, who's facing a pretty tough operation, and call this guy out of the blue. Great dog. Called him out of the blue and talked to him for, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes. And it was so, it gives me goosebumps sitting here today to even think about this guy who he was so taken by the whole thing and how wonderful it was. That's the kind of giving, and that's the kind, he gets it. Kirby gets it. And that's the kind of giving that pays back. And he and Mary Beth have in spades. And it's a wonderful thing. We're fortunate. We're really fortunate.
Yeah, well, John, that really is a great story, and I'm glad you shared that with us there. And you talk about just somebody taking a little bit of time and how it made somebody's day. Heck, that was probably better than chemo for that Georgia fan. We joked about it. Man, this is awesome. I wouldn't have got to talk to the coach if I hadn't got this damn disease, and now he's going to be okay. Kirby called him. Oh, it's a great happy ending. John,
yeah, said he almost hung up on him. He said he figures his brother jerking him around, but he didn't. He didn't hang up. Good. Yeah.
Oh, John, you're the best, my friend. I really appreciate the time. And we'll hopefully do this again soon, because we can tell some old stories about Coach Kopus and Dr. Powell and your dad. We can go on for hours with some of those.
Yeah, the old athletic dorm. There's a bunch of stories there to be told for sure.
John, thank you, my friend. Thank you for all you do.
You're the best. You are the best. Cheers.
You are the best. The
right,
one
bye.
And only. The great John Parker. We'll see it. And he followed Teresa Edwards, too. Those are pretty big shoes to try and fill there.
I didn't fill any of those shoes. She's the best. I love Teresa Edwards, man. She's the best.
Holy cow. Well, she was fantastic. So go back and watch all the old episodes here on Bulldog Illustrated. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next week right here on Bulldog Illustrated.